She considered this. I feel great. My arm doesn't hurt. How did you do that? A little trick from the elves. He gave her a pot of stew. They ate greedily. When they finished, Trillium walked to the stream to wash up. She came back and laid down. Jensen looked at her, and she looked away shyly. He reached out and held her neck, making her look at him. She felt hypnotized by him. She could feel him slipping into her mind. He was searching for something. She had to muster all of her strength and then shouted, "You do not belong here!" He jumped slightly. "Sorry. It's a mind thing I've been working on." "Yeah, I'd say. You may ask me anything you like, but just don't ever do that again. I can block you out anyway." He smiled. She was wrong. She was like a reed in the water, but she sensed him way too easily. He should have known that, but it was worth a shot. "Why do you look at me like that?" "Because you are the child. You lie." "I want you. I'm infatuated with you. You are beautiful. I know you want me as well." He was right. Her heart began to race the minute she saw him. "I do not." "Now you're lying." "So you see through me as well?" "Yes." "I have more important matters to address," Trillium said as if she was in a dream. She thought about her quest, the war in Phariseth. Dear Phariseth. Nothing could block her mind from him. Kai, Jin, and a tribe of elves reached the wall that divided north from south. After the fire, they wanted to keep the evil on that side. They unlocked the door and went through it running and screaming, ready to kill. They got all about 5 feet before they all came to a dead stop. Something had definitely happened here, but they were too late. The dark elves lay scattered all over the dirt that was covered in blood. The dry earth soaked it up quickly. "Holy shit!" Jin cried. I wouldn't want to be on her bad side. She took them all. Neither had seen such carnage. "Where is she?" "What's the child's name?" "Trillium," one of the elves answered. "Let's try to find her. The elven lady will be mad if we don't do our job." They split up, shouting her name. Trillium heard this far off and snapped out of her dream. This startled Jensen, who waved his hand over her face and whispered, "Sleep." "I see something," Jin called. He rushed to where he saw the body in the grass. He shook her shoulder, but nothing happened. "Back up, don't startle her." He jumped back like he had been bitten. "Trillium, wake up!" She woke and jumped to her feet, drawing her bow in seconds flat. "Whoa, wait!" He motioned to Kai, and they both lowered their weapons. "We were sent by an elven lady to find you." "You're not from here. Why would I be sent to outsiders?" "We are not really sure. We will ask her when we meet up." She knew they were telling the truth, but remained suspicious. She told them that she had a boat on the northern side, so they followed her back through the wall and walked into the dark land once again. They followed her to the village. She realized she hadn't been dreaming. All of the elves were dead. Jensen was no neutral man. He was a monster. He enjoyed his killing. He even took time to hack all these guys into pieces. "How could you do that? Isn't death enough?" Jin accused. Trillium turned in surprise. "I didn't do it, I swear." They didn't believe her. "No, there was someone else here. He saved me from them." "Then where is he?" Kai asked curiously. "I don't know. He bandaged my arm." She pointed at the covered wound. "You could have done it yourself," Jin shouted. The elves closed in on him, each with bows drawn. "Whoa! She is the child. You are a stranger. If you doubt the child, we shall make you into a pincushion." "Sorry, Trillium, I apologize." She looked at him. The elves found the missing armor and rejoiced at their discovery. They gave Trillium, Kai, and Jin a bag of rations for their trip. They boarded Trillium's boat and pushed off to sea, waving at the elves that watched on the shore. After they were out a ways, Jin spoke. "At least it's not a piece of crap. Old, but better. Hopefully we won't sink this time." He looked at Trillium. "Can't swim." "You sank? How did you survive?" "Annabella saved us." "No, it was the water warrior." They heard a splash and Trillium was gone. She knew she could swim much faster than this boat could travel. Seemed to her that her mother must have sent them to protect her. They were outsiders after all, and they needed the protection. But what did they have to do with anything? They both jumped up, rocking the boat heavily. "Where'd she go?" A head popped out of the water and Jin screamed. That's right, she is a half-breed. See, I told you those Abella exist. That's what he looked like, those bottomless blue eyes. Trillium hopped back into the boat and transformed. They sat in wonder. It was the weirdest thing they'd ever seen. Trillium started laughing hysterically. They looked at her strangely, wondering if she was making fun of them or not. Jin got a little angry. What's so damn funny? Kai shook his head at Jin in disapproval. It's a Drella, and you should have seen your face when I surfaced. She laughed hard. She couldn't help it. Jin frowned. I'm sorry, she snorted between breaths. Kai tried to hold his composure but laughed with her. I thought we were in trouble when you disappeared like that. You should have seen Jin's face. They both started roaring. Shut up, Jin shouted. Trillium was puzzled. Where are we supposed to go? I'm out of directions. She said go to Elf Stack. No, Jin, elk, like that creature we tried to catch, Jin corrected. Trillium laughed. How'd that go? Did you catch him? Trillium teased. No, they both said at the same time, then looked at each other. We didn't have any weapons. Elkstaff, I know where that is. She jumped into the water again. Hey, where are you going? Don't leave us here. We're prey to everyone. You're such a wuss. Kai shook his head. We're armed, Jin. Jin looked eagerly for his new spear. Oh, yeah. I'll be back. See you soon. Farisef had decided to stay in his kingdom and sent out a small troop to Phaethia. As reluctant as he was to stay, he felt he had to. It could be a trap to lure him away. He knew that some of the Dark Ones had powers and could send him visions. He could not abandon his people after the last attack, even if it were to save his true love. He wasn't sure from at what distances these visions could be sent, but there was a suspected traitor among them from what the council had said. He was now wishing he had gone. If anything happened to her, he would never forgive himself. Just then the leader of his army walked in. He stood to his feet. She escaped our capture, took them out single-handed, and took time to butcher them all. We couldn't find her, but we're sure she's alive. This could mean very bad things for the council. If the Dark Ones tricked her to harm someone on the council, or worse yet, turn her into one of them. He was relieved she had made it out alive. He could now focus on the war to come. When it would happen, he could only guess. A week, a month, 2 summers, or maybe not at all, he hoped. But it had been foreseen by many, even Trillium. Foresight was her strongest power. There would be a council meeting tomorrow where his questions would be answered. Chapter 7. Wizards and Fire. Jin and Kai were napping when they felt the boat move beneath them. They looked over the side with surprise and saw a group of Adrella carrying the boat. It made the trip go much faster. They held on tight as they cut through the water. Trillium winked at them and swam beside the boat. When they got closer to Elkstaff, they could see disturbances in the water. Adrella, lots of them. The Adrella with them began to fight the other Adrella and began attacking them. The Adrella beached their boat and helped them upon shore. They followed Trillium to land and gathered around her to protect her as she transformed. She put clothes back on from the knapsack she had thrown inside the boat. What's going on? Kai asked. There's big trouble in the kingdom. They found out that William is my father. They are not taking lightly to the fact that he had an affair outside of his own race. They feel he has betrayed them. They have taken to the Dark Ones, and all hell is breaking loose down there. Adrella began popping up everywhere. Spears and blades showered all around them. Quick, to the temple! A spear was thrown, and Kai caught it in mid-air and heaved it back, sticking the Adrella through the chest. He smirked a half-smile. As more Adrella appeared on the surface, they could hear a hissing sound. Trillium rushed to where the hidden temple rested and paused. Why are we stopping? Jin asked. It's right here. I don't see it, Jin commented. Trillium reached out her hand and felt the hidden door. A voice bellowed. Show your stone of lineage and speak your name. Trillium reached into her shirt, but there was nothing there. Jensen! She screamed. He stole my amulet! I knew there was something strange about him. Told you there's nothing there. It's here. We're locked out. The hissing grew louder. A few Adrella beached to get a better shot at them. They all fought the shower of spears and blades, protecting Trillium the entire time. Don't make me kill my own kind, she shouted. A spear cut through the space between Jin and Kai and sliced her shoulder. It wasn't too deep, but it was enough. That's it. They tried to block her, but she jumped out of the circle, pulling her bow. Many fell. Trillium hardly ever missed. Some of the Adrella saw this and quickly receded. Jin and Kai looked at each other with amazement. "Look at her go!" Jin exclaimed. "I can't even see her hands." Farisef could see the commotion from above. He saw her taking them within seconds. Trillium didn't see him until he landed. Farisef unsheathed his father's sword and charged the Outlanders. "No, Farah, no!" She nimbly jumped in front of them and guarded them with her arms. "They're okay, leave them be." He looked over them suspiciously. "Quick, your amulet, mine's gone." He approached the door and found it with his hand. The voice spoke and Farisef held up his amulet and spoke his name. The door appeared and opened with blinding light. Jin shielded his eyes. Every one of the Adrella disappeared into the water. "Well, I'll be damned," Jin said in disbelief. Stay away from the door," Farisef warned and pulled her inside before it closed. "Don't leave them out there. They'll be okay. Come on." She rushed to her mother and embraced her. She looked around. "Where's father?" "We don't know." "Be seated," Nezha spoke. Everyone took their seats. "We sent spies to the mountains. They're all dead. The Adrella found out about William and Jasha with a little help from the Dark Ones and are revolting against him. Now my father may pay with his life." "I thought the Adrella were your #1 fans," Farisef tried to reassure her. "Most of them are," Nezha answered. "All of the Adrella wish they could walk upon land. They are fascinated with her, but these are dark days and they are easily influenced." "Trillium, something clouds your mind. I do not have insight like you do, but I feel and sense it." Trillium was reluctant at first, and then sighed. "When I was held captive in Phaethia, somebody rescued me. When I reached the temple, I noticed my amulet was missing." Half of the wizards gasped. "Who is he?" "He called himself Jensen. He's human." "You know that the only humans left are one of them. You may have grown up naive, but you are not any longer." "He said he was neutral. He has no quarrel with them or us. Why didn't he kill me or turn me in?" "Good point, but he did steal your amulet. Now we are all in danger." There was a huge crash that shook the temple. They gripped the table for support. "We're too late. They've come. The war is now," Nezha exclaimed. "Prepare for the meeting of the Wizards of Havenbell." Another crash. The door began to open. It was not Jensen who came in, but a dark elf, and then another, and another. 3 Adrella popped up from William's pool and began to show their sharp teeth and hiss. The wizards began to fight them off. Trillium stood by a wall shooting them as they came in. Farisef battled the Josepharians that came in behind the elves. Jasha and Nezha fought the Adrella, who never seemed to stop popping up. Drew got mauled by a couple elves, but Farisef came behind them, picking them both up, one in each hand, and threw them aside, and then stabbed the attackers with the double swords. "Come on, we got to get out of here." Nezha and Farisef began moving the pile of bodies that blocked the door. Nezha led the way, then Jasha, Bunky, Esmeralda, Trillium, and Farisef, who helped the limping Drew. It was worse outside, way worse. There seemed to be every dark soldier, slave, and stray upon them now. The field was covered with them. The sky was clouded with feathers fighting each other. Some dove upon them, throwing air fans and shooting arrows. Farisef deflected them with his shield. Jasha shot down some feathers in the sky. Bunky, Drew, and Donica fought the elves. "To the woods!" the fairy queen cried. They started making their way north, fighting as they went. Trillium aimed at a feather who came swooping down. "Heads up!" she cried, but not in time. The body landed on Bunky, knocking the wind out of him. "Bunky, I'm sorry. Are you okay?" She rushed to him and pulled the body off. "Yeah," he panted. She helped him to his feet and let him use her as support until he recovered. His eyes got wide and he tried to point, but as she turned around, an elf lunged at her with a dagger. Then a spike came through his stomach and Trillium jumped back. There were Jen and Kai, who smiled at each other. "Thanks, I didn't see him." They were almost where the trees started now. A trail of dark ones followed them. They stopped to ward off about 40 soldiers. Farisef fought the grounded feathers. Jasha shot them from the sky. The rest of them fought the extras. One shot Nezha in the leg. He yelled, then smiled. The attacker flew to the ground, clutching his upper leg. "Hurts you more than me," Nezha laughed, then stabbed him in the heart. Then all at once, as if by command, all of the enemies simultaneously rushed Trillium. Esmeralda flew swiftly to her. "Protect us," she commanded. They all made a circle around them, fighting off the crowd. Esmeralda closed her eyes and meditated. She conjured all of her power. A pink ball of light formed between her hands. When it was fully formed, she released it, sending a rose-colored glow through the air. The whole dark army dropped to the ground. She killed them all, Jin cheered. No, she cast a spell, Kai replied. Why didn't she do it earlier? Jin complained. I need the right time, she whispered. Help me. She was drained and exhausted. Kai picked her up. She was light as a feather. He carried her into the woods. The rest followed. Lars Imp whispered into his ear. He walked around the large rock to where Tolan lay with Jade. Sorry to interrupt. I was notified that the child has been spotted with the others in Elkstaff. Now would be our time to make our move. Prepare the slaves and soldiers. Tell the Adrella to slay all they can, and they shall be rewarded, Jade replied. They began to dress. Prepare 4 ships, 2 to land in Elkstaff with our troops, and 2 to land in Fathia. We shall trap them. Lars nodded and smiled. One more thing. Yes? Her mother is alive and travels with them. Jade began to laugh, but inside, Lar laughed harder. They made a camp for the night inside the woods. Esmeralda was still recovering. That was a great spell. Can you do that again if we get into trouble again? Jin asked, excited. She moved to speak, but Nezha put a hand on her and spoke for her. She can only do it once in a while. It takes all of her strength and magic. It wipes her out. I should have saved it, she whispered. What are we going to do now? What if they wake up from the spell? They will be back. In the morning after we rest, Verisef, you will return to your kingdom. You must prepare for battle. Jin and Kai will follow Jasha to Fathia. We just got back from there. I thought we were supposed to protect Trillium, Jin complained. You are, but for now she must venture alone. To where? She asked. You must go into the sea and save your father. I have no experience in underwater battle, but I'll do anything to save him. Now is your time to learn. You can venture into the Forbidden if need be. They have strong soldiers, the Adrella. There are many, but they need your help. Trillium accepted. We must split up for a while and meet in Fathia when all is safe. They slept for the night unharmed, and when they awoke they prepared to split up. Verisef came to Trillium. Her first instinct was to hug Verisef, but she refrained to do so in front of the council. It's okay, his eyes said. If I don't see you again, my heart shall break. That's the last thing I ever want to do. Stay safe and I'll see you soon. He winked and flew into the air. He hated not being able to watch over her, but knew she could protect herself. Damn the council. Damn his luck. He realized, with the eye being in the hands of the Dark Ones, that this would be a very difficult battle to win. He looked back just in case she hadn't left yet. There she was, still watching him. His heart lifted and she waved. She undressed and jumped into the water. It was red with blood. She got in deeper and began to pick up speed, yet again enjoying it. She followed the path. There were Adrella everywhere. It was worse than she thought. The dark Adrella were darker in skin color, and the brew made their eyes turn red. She rushed by, and it was quiet again. She came across a group of 5 picking on someone. Trillium approached slowly. They spotted her and lunged. The young prisoner seized his opportunity. He stabbed 2 in the back, 1 with each claw. She wrestled with one, and the other sliced her chest. She got the first one as the other lunged at her. The young one stabbed him through the throat. His eyes widened with surprise and terror. I love my king and serve the half-breed. Trillium was overjoyed. The male victim grabbed a sack full of weapons and gave Trillium one as well. Thanks, you saved me. They would have killed me for sure. What's your name? Logan. Logan Rosser, he answered. Nice fighting, Logan. I'm Trillium. Are you really the child of Harmony? She nodded. I'm in your debt. Will you help me back to Coral Kingdom? I would help you, but I'm not going there. Why not? All hell is broken loose down there. They're slaughtering each other. You must help me. I saved you, remember? He was hesitant. Do I have a choice? Not really. With that, he escorted her into hell. They carefully made their way to the kingdom. Sneaking along as they went, they hid behind the coral and disappeared in the shadows. Look! Trillium peeked out and saw 2 long rows of stakes in the sand. The dead Adrella bodies floated to the tops like balloons bound by string. Their limbs floated like seaweed in the current. I'm going to be sick, Logan said. You're crazy coming here. The king's long gone by now. The shadow is spread. If he is alive, I intend to find him. I'm not going, Logan chickened out. Oh, really? Shall I throw you out like bait so I can sneak in while they devour you? Okay. They slowly swam through the large gate of Coral Kingdom. There's no one here. I wouldn't be too sure. I say we leave. Not till I find my father. They swam slowly into the square. There was no sound, no movement. The gate began to close behind them. Logan rushed to it, but it shut before he could escape. He held on to the iron bars. I knew we shouldn't have come here. Where there was once darkness, red eyes began to appear everywhere. I knew it was a trap. Adadrilla came out of the shadows and circled them. Trillium pulled a spear out of one of the fallen and threw it at the woman, but totally missed. This angered her target, and she came to rush Trillium again. Logan picked the spear up and threw it just in time, piercing her through the chest. 2 more closed in, and 3 crowded Logan. She threw her bag down, and both of them grabbed a sharp Adrella blade. He pulled one from the bag and threw it. It sliced through the water and stuck the torso of one. He pulled it out, and the blood spread fiercely into the water. She threw one too soft, and it floated into the sand. Watch, he called, and put a spin on it when he threw. The blade nailed the one closest to her, and turned back and came back to him. He caught it easily where the blade was dull and meant to be held. She tried again this time, hitting one of them. The blade did not turn around, but flew into the sand. Her aim was bad, but it disabled him and would probably kill him. Logan was too busy to notice the spear that came towards him. It stuck into his shoulder and nailed him to the coral wall. She swam to the attacker. She held another blade, but a dark Adrella grabbed her ankle. She tried to kick free, but the hold was strong. She threw it, but the blade wobbled and nicked his arm. He took his attention away from Logan. Trillium kept struggling to free herself. Trillium fought, but as the hurt one approached to attack, there was no escape. The Dark Ones beached on the shore of Elkstaff. They still had a small army left on the ground, which was good. They were all awake now. When they got out, Jade approached them. "Where are the wizards?" she asked the elven woman. She didn't respond, so Jade searched their minds. Great, they think they're chickens. It must be a spell. They're all useless. Or maybe not. Jade focused her mind and spoke in a language long forgotten. The woman woke up. "Where are they?" "They split up, I think. All gone." She watched the brew intently, which Jade held out in front of her. The woman grasped for it with her hands. "They split up. All gone." Jade held the cup up and then slapped the woman's hand. Out of the water rose an Adrella whose eyes were burning red. Tolan approached him. The moon cast on his deadly fangs. They looked at each other for a moment, and then the head slipped silently back into the water. As the Dark One approached, Trillium was still being held. 5 blades were launched through the water. Trillium felt slack on her ankle. The hand still clung to it, but floated away from his body. As the rest of his limbs detached, the water filled with blood. She swam about the room. "Show yourself," she commanded. 2 small eyes appeared from the darkness. They were not red. "Seed?" Her brother swam to her. "What are you doing here?" "They took Father. I wanted to follow him, but I decided to stay and protect the kingdom. That's what he would have wanted me to do." "How did you hide from them?" "I'm small and sly." "Zeed, you cannot stay here." "Can I come with you to find Father?" "For a time, until I get you safe among the rest." "I'm a fighter, Trillium. Let me come," he pleaded. "You are a boy, a very important one. This place is deserted. Let's go." Mutt had sent the slave ship to Phaethia. He had done it, at least he hoped. Now he was alone, and he had his chance. He was pretty sure he knew where the eye was. It had called to him in his dreams. He crept quietly into Jade's room, even though there was no one about. He began to dig around. He looked under the bed and found nothing. Then he spotted the small throw rug and yanked it from the floor. He saw the small door. He pulled the handle, but it didn't open. It was locked. He focused his mind on the lock. He heard a click and it opened instantly. He opened the hinge top and reached inside the hole. He pulled out a box. It, too, was locked. He tried again to release it, but the lock would not comply. He tried harder. After breaking a sweat, the lock finally let go. He opened the lid eagerly. The eye filled his face with light. He scooped it up, and the eye took hold of him, and he froze. He felt like it cleansed him. He heard footsteps approaching and jumped. The ball rolled across the floor. He dashed into the shadows and hid behind Jade's vanity mirror. Lars stomped in. He saw the eye on the floor and looked around, sniffing the air. "Who's there?" he asked the open air. He scanned the room and saw no one. He turned to his senses, which were much sharper than his eyes, but felt nothing. Mutt knew something Lars didn't. Mutt was the master at going unnoticed. Lars snagged the box and put the eye in it. "At last, I shall rule Havenbell." He left. Mutt held still, barely breathing. This was far worse than he had expected. He was strong now, but not half as strong as Lar. There was something truly evil about him. Now with the eye in his power, he would be extremely dangerous. He didn't believe that even all of the wizards could contend with him. Mutt went back to his room where the dummy lay in his bed. He began to prepare for the second stage of his plan. Esmeralda checked on the fairy shield and placed guards upon the shores. After everything was secure, she left Ephadia. The sky was littered with Josepharians. All of the dark feathers left flew above the shield and dropped spiked balls upon them. The whole place rattled, but the shields held, and after 4 had bounced off, they retreated and headed towards land. Pharisef saw these attacks. The shield was stronger than he had expected. He called all arms, they suited up, and it was time. Sploosh! What was that? A big ball of spikes fell to the ocean floor. 10 feet over, and you would have been shark food. Where are we going, sister? You'll see. We're almost there. Trillium could see the cave. When they got there, she pulled the key from her pack. She showed it to Zed, who touched it and smiled. That's us. She opened the door, and they swam into the cave. My mother made the Adrella hide things in here. I could only hold so much. I left all of the things that were meant for you. He swam around looking at all of the old armor. Most of it's too big for you. He tried on a helmet which fell over his eyes. They laughed. There is a little that may fit you. Trillium went to Logan and looked at him deeply. Are you ready? He nodded unhappily and took a deep breath. 1, 2, 3. She yanked what remained of the spear from his shoulder. He screamed. Okay? She asked. He nodded. His face held a grimace. She reached into her bag and pulled out a potion. She poured the content into his wound. She pricked her finger with her dagger and put 3 drops of her blood into the hole. Healtus, Noctus, Rambit, Senor. Wait, that's not it. Duran taught me. She tried again. Healtus, Notus, Rambit, Sanor. The wound began to glow. The broken skin began to heal rapidly. It left a nasty dark patch. She dove back down. Zed was swimming around wearing armor. She looked at him seriously. No one can get in, and no one can get out. No, Trillium, don't leave me here alone. I want to fight. I'm leaving Logan with you. Great, Logan replied. I don't mind staying here until this is over. Nothing but death out there. I can't lose you, Zed. The Adrella needs you. He gave up. Fine, father. I will. She pressed her forehead to his and then to Logan's. Kai and Jin followed Jaisha to her homeland. They landed on the south shore. All of the bodies had been removed. There were 2 groups of elves already waiting. They hailed their estranged queen. We're heading north, Your Highness. There's already words of wizards on the shore. We must stop them before they get to Serenity City. Agreed. Let's move. They reached the center of Phadia before they saw their enemies. They were mostly goblins and converted elves. Jin and Kai were excited. Kai took 10, but Jin was determined not to let Kai beat him again. He had slain 14. Jaisha was impressed with both of them. The elven army killed about 30. Jaisha shot down the leader. They started north again, now clear from harm. They took time to rest and eat. This made them groggy, but they all got to their feet when Jaisha summoned them. They were close now, and they could see smoke in the air. They've reached the city all right. Let's flush them out. Jaisha said a chant, and the gate of the city opened. When it did, they almost got stampeded with elves that ran for their lives. Bunch of sissies, Jin called out as they ran past them. There's too many, one of them shouted. Retreat! The 3 of them pulled out their weapons and dove in. Trillium had passed some Adrella who told her that the wizards were trying to take over their city. I'm the king's daughter. What happened? He's been sent to the mountains. A few made it into the Forbidden but had to turn back. I'm sorry, princess. We almost have them outnumbered. Word is the wizards are headed for Phadia. We have this under control. You should meet up with them. I will, but I made a promise I intend to keep. Jade entered the silent cave and headed for the slaves' chamber. Good, she said when she saw the empty cells. It's time we put those rats to work. 2 Adrella popped up through the waterhole. We have the king of the Adrella. They held up his limp body and laid him on the floor. Brew? One of them asked lightly. Brew, brew, brew. Not enough for you. Be glad I don't kill you. Knowing she was right, they both silently slipped back into the water. Using her mind, she lifted his body into the air and carried him down the long corridor. Mutt peered around the corner. No! Jade put him in the crusher. Mutt ran silently back down the hall. She felt strength grow inside of her. Now for my next plan. Mutt had gotten sick. He wiped his mouth and was pale as a ghost. He heard Jade coming down the hall and tiptoed into the shadows. She came into the room and stopped short when she saw the secret hatch was open. "No!" she screamed. "Mutt, where are you?" She ran out of the room and tuned in on Mutt's presence. She got close to the drapery he was behind. He was sweating. "I'm dead for sure," he confirmed to himself. As if she heard him, she flung open the drapes. She could hardly recognize him. "You're looking good these days. Where's the eye?" "I don't have it. Lar took it. Now we are all doomed." She scanned his mind. "You tell the truth. Why didn't you stop him?" "Yeah, right." "You have power, Mutt, more than you know. During the attack on your old land, I met this woman. She pleaded and begged for her life. She said her husband had died and her son ran away. Then Jade was no longer herself. He was looking right into his mother's eyes. "I'm so sorry for ignoring you. I just want you back. Please, will you come back? I'm sorry for leaving you, Mother. You left me alone when your father died. Now I have no one." Jade was smiling on the inside, but things do not always go as planned. Mutt changed. Like a light had gone on inside of his brain. Everything felt different. "You are not my mother." Jade's spell faded and she grew furious. She sneered at him. "Is this how you want to bring my power forth, by using my mother against me? She cried for you to come back. I killed her." He threw a large, heavy keg barrel at her without lifting a finger. She tossed it away and the brew spilled all over. Looks like you've been using them already. It's no use. I would crumple your mind. Join me instead. They never liked you. You are but a reject to them. You will never be anything without us." Mutt sat silent for a moment and then looked at her blankly. "Without you, I am free!" He raised his hands in the air and Jade was lifted off of the ground. His power was growing rapidly as he stood up to the one in which he had feared for so long. He got stronger. "What are you doing?" She tried to make him believe she was heavy but failed to break his mind. She tried throwing things at him but was unable. She tried to persuade him she was a beautiful woman, but his mind held solid. He followed her floating body, and when they turned to the kitchen, Jade began to scream. She used all of her strength to break the spell, but failed. She tried to use the scramble to crush his brain, but couldn't. The look of her surprise and failure made Mutt even more confident, raising his powers again. "I'm impressed. Who knew a little shit like you would grow so strong?" "This is for all the pain you've caused so many people, all the death you caused for your power-hungry greed. This is for my mother and father and the child's poor father. Your horrible life is now at an end." "No, don't! I can give you more power. I can make you a king." "You've done nothing for me but drain all of the good out of me and blind me from the truth. It's all over, Jade. May their ghost haunt you forever in the afterlife." He lowered her into the crusher and began to crank. She sent one final thought to him before she died. "It's just started. You cannot defeat Lar. No one can." She realized that they weren't taking her father hostage. They needed more from him. Trillium arrived on the shore of the Mountains of Shadow, tired and worn from all the swimming. If she hadn't had an endurance spell, she wouldn't have made it this far through the Forbidden. She found a nice bush that she hid behind and laid there for a while she fully transformed. She dressed in wet clothes from her pack, and when she was ready, she began to creep towards the mountains. She followed the instructions which Nedja had told her, and with them she easily found the cave. When she entered, she could see nothing at all. "What do you want?" she heard from the darkness. She squinted her eyes and then could see a figure. "Where's my father?" "So you're the one they all seek. Tell me where he is." "I'm not a wizard. Not anymore. An old elven lady saved me." "You lie!" "I do not," he said through thought. He was truthful. "My father, what have they done with him?" "It is as you suspect, child. He is passed." "No, I've only just met him." "It was Jade who killed him, but I tricked her, so I did. Ha! Made sure her fate was the same as his." "You killed Jade?" He stepped into the light, holding up her onyx necklace. "We had some issues of our own to work out." Who are you? Mutt. I mean Jack. It felt good to say his real name again. He was no longer ashamed. Call me Jack. Jack, you still keep secrets. Keen you are, child. We have a serious problem. Do you know of Lar? That sounds familiar. She remembered what Morgan had said. Who is he? He is a wizard above all wizards, a powerful outlander with many secrets. He has the eye you seek, but getting it back will be impossible. I think I've already met him. My powers have grown strong, and I still have a way to go, but I offer my assistance in any way I can. Excuse me if I have a hard time trusting dark ones. I've been deceived recently. I will do all I can to have my revenge on them, to finally belong somewhere, for I doubt the elves shall ever let me back into Phaedia. I wish to thank the old one that saved me. Please, child, I bleed for you. He took a dagger from his side and sliced his palm, letting the blood trickle from his hand. Do you have a boat? Yes, it's tied up on the other side. Then come with me to Phaedia, Jack, and fight. We need all the help we can get. She shook his bleeding hand, making a truce. She knew he could be trusted. One thing first, child. Huh? We must destroy the brew and cleanse Havenbell of its evil powers. Help me dump it into the sea. No! Jack was startled. The Adrella! Oh, goodness, didn't even think about that. He raised his hand and the crusher burst into flames. He thought of all the fairies he had put in that thing. Then he remembered making Jade eat it. It was the final cleansing that he needed. He could finally put an end to his evil ways, put it all behind him, and try to redeem all he had ever done wrong. Now he was free. Nemi had begun to sharpen her own skills. She now used them against the elves of Phaedia. She had been in a bad disposition, De Groot dying and her parents' jokes about it. She was happy to lose her sister, always being second best and not half as pretty as Aurora. She made a few elves lose their minds. They called it the scramble. Her mother taught her how to do it. She herded a group of elves into a cowering circle and started a ring of fire around them. The fire closed in and began to burn their clothes. The more they screamed, the better she felt. She was hurt and out of control. She now enjoyed the pain of others. Many elves tried to rush her and take her over, to no prevail. This was just too easy. The first group of temple wizards reached the city and began slaying their threat. Bunky saw the elves and began shooting at Nemi, but she deflected each shot. Bunky tried to persuade Nemi that he was one of them, but overthrowing a wizard's mind was much harder than those untrained. Donica put out the fire while Nemi was distracted, and the elves fled in all directions. Nemi saw some of them carrying the wounded and threw 5 daggers from her belt, killing all of them. Donica charged her with a sword, but she moved and the blade went through Bunky. His last vision was of Donica smiling. Give that to me, Nemi ordered. Donica passed it over and Nemi stuck it through her. Donica continued to smile as her body collapsed. Please, you call these wizards? Give me a challenge. Kai, Jin, and Jaisha showed up minutes after. Nemi was overjoyed. Who the hell are they? She said aloud when she saw the 2 Drakens. They came at her quickly. She seized a passing elf and held a blade to his neck. He was all of 10 summers old. Drop him, Jaisha commanded, aiming her bow at Nemi. Not till the one who killed De Groot steps up to me. We do not know of De Groot, Jaisha answered, still waiting to shoot. He was the son of the cloak, but one of you killed him in the land of fairies. Do you remember now? The one that killed him is not present, but don't worry, you'll never live to see the child. Nemi was afraid of that. She would have no nerves fighting anyone else, but the Child of Harmony brought great fear into her. Wasn't this what it was all about, their fear of the half-breed? The one to reunite and strengthen Havenbell against their clan? The fear of being flushed out and murdered? Yes, it was all about fear. Jin and Kai had moved around her and started to circle her. Jaisha made her shot. Almost nothing bested her. There was only one thing that could ever affect her aim, and that was exactly what happened. Jaisha was strong in mind, but Nemi was stronger due to Jade. Entering Jaisha's mind was as easy as tearing paper. Nemi threw off her perception and caused her to miss completely. Jaisha was shocked. She shot again and missed. If you're so powerful, let him go. Stop hiding behind him, coward. Nemi threw the boy to the dirt, and when Jin reached out his hand to help him up, the boy screamed and ran away. Jin frowned. Your power is slipping, Nemi. You are wrong. I've only just begun. Jaisha began shooting as fast as she could, and while Nemi focused on deflecting the arrows, Kai came up behind her and tripped her. Jin used his spear to slap her weapons away. They all felt a sudden chill, and a dark stranger appeared. "Father!" Nemi shouted. Tolan drew his sword. "Give us back the eye, and we'll release your only daughter that still lives." He felt truth in Jaisha's words. He knew they wanted the eye more than them. It would actually help them. "I do not have the eye. Jade does." Jaisha was done playing games. She came to Nemi and sliced her cheek. Warm blood began to flow down her face. "Jade is on her way. Then you'll all be dead." "Jade is dead," a voice said from behind them. From behind Jaisha stepped her almost exact replica. "That's the half-breed! Kill her!" Nemi screamed. Jaisha punched her. "Tie her up and blindfold her. She can't get to your mind without her eyes. We keep her until the eye is returned." Trillium and Jaisha stood aimed at Tolan. "I told you Jade has it." "Jade is dead," Trillium repeated. "You lie. She'd waste you." "She speaks true, Tolan." Jack stepped out from behind them. "Who are you? You look familiar." Tolan looked into Jack's eyes and saw Jade being crushed. "Mutt! It's not possible to gain such power." "It's Jack, and I'm just as strong as you are." "Where's the eye, Trillium?" Jaisha asked. "Lar has it," Jack responded. "Then all of us shall meet our deaths," Tolan stated. "Why would you let Lar in your clan knowing he could betray you?" Trillium asked. "I didn't believe he would. That is until I heard the truth about DeGroot. I was wary about him, but I never thought he would get the eye from Jade. He has plans for us all, I'm sure." "It was Lar? I don't believe it. DeGroot was chasing her," Nemi shouted. Jaisha socked her another one. Nemi shut up. "Who stole my amulet and let you all into the temple? Was it Lar?" Trillium asked Tolan. "All we heard is that the seal to the temple was broken, so we headed in." "Do you think it was Lar?" "Certainly. He has powers that we are unaware of, powers we can't comprehend." He shook his head. "Mutt, we could have made so much more of you." "You lie! I am your family pig no longer." "Could have fooled me," Tolan stated coldly. Jack jumped, but Trillium touched his shoulder and he stopped. He took a deep breath. "I serve the child." Ships began to appear on the horizon. They approached rapidly. "Hand me my daughter, or I will unleash all of my troops upon yours." The ships began to unload the dark army. They were half mixed with ogres from Orzo. Crowds began to run at them at full force. "Hold your ground!" Jaisha commanded. The armor-clad elves raised their bows. The dark army never faltered charging in. The elven army's arrows began to fly, but most were deflected off of the elves' dark armor. In less than 10 minutes, half of the army was slaughtered. They began to close in on the wizards. "Release Nemi!" Trillium told her mother. "No, I've got him," Kai stated. Just then, another ship began to unload a group of 200 soldiers. "What about now?" she tried again. "Nay, Trillium, hold." They were in high alert. The second group rushed towards them, screaming their battle cries. Trillium closed her eyes and swallowed. They would have no choice but to release her. The leader of the second army wore a horned helmet and tried to break through the elves that surrounded the wizards of the temple. Right before they reached the barrier, the leader in the horned helmet lifted his medal from his face, but it was no man at all. It was an old woman. "Get 'em!" she yelled, and they all began to fight the dark army. They were dumbfounded as all their long-lost friends joined them in battle. "Just in the nick of time. She's the one that saved me," Jack told Trillium. She looked at her mother and was puzzled. Jaisha held her bow steady, but smiled as tears streamed down her face. A swarm of Josepharians flew in, darkening the sky. Jin and Kai went crazy spearing these guys. Kai rushed and caught 3 at one time. The dark feathers surrounded the wizards on land and on ground. Tolan seized his chance and fled south. A second cloud of feathers came in. Trillium could see Phariseth. She smiled. "All right, we have backup," she cheered. With the dark feathers concentrating on the wizards, they did not see the ambush behind them. Phariseth sliced one down and he splashed into the water. His troops shot down about 20 of them quickly before they diverted their attention. A dark one shot the soldier that flew beside Phariseth, and in return Trillium shot him down. Now all of the feathers returned to the sky to battle against each other, but were deeply sorry they did, for Jaisha and Trillium seldom miss, and having the attackers in the air gave the archers the advantage. There were 5 dark ones left, but then something unexpected happened. One of them pulled out an air fan. It was a bladed boomerang, much like the ones they use in the sea, but designed for air. He nailed 5 of them in one throw. Verisov got his wing clipped and fell to the ground with a thud. He lay there with the breath knocked out of him. Trillium began to shoot in a rage. She had never stuck someone so full of arrows before. With help from her mother, the 15 that remained were slaughtered. Trillium ran to check on Verisov. "You really got him, didn't you? Just watching out for you." "Trillium?" he asked as she examined his wing. She no longer had any of the potions she'd given to Logan. "In case we don't make it, I want you to know that I love you." "I love you too," she winked. "Can you fly?" "I don't know. It's not deep. It just hurts." "Esmeralda will be here soon. Stay grounded for now." They looked over the battlefield. They had conquered, at least for the time being. Jasha approached them. "We have done well, but I fear this is not the end. Tolan escaped while we were distracted. He will come back for Nemi." "There is no more brew. It has been destroyed. We have the upper hand," Jack said. "There are only 2 left," Jasha reminded. "Make that 3, Jack corrected. "Ye forget Lar, and he's one mean son of a bitch." They retreated to the underground hideout. They ate and dressed their wounds. Everyone lay rested after filling their stomachs. Jack went into the separate room where Nemi was caged. She was blindfolded and sobbing. She stopped quickly when Jack entered. He pushed a plate of food under the bars. "Why should I trust what you serve? I'm sure you poisoned it," she muttered. "You are Jade's daughter. I'm sure you can read my mind. It's fine." She slowly grabbed the plate and began to eat, keeping her head down the whole time. "Nemi, will you join us?" She choked on her food. "What? Are you joking? I'd rather die first." "Your father is still alive, but we don't know where he is." "You want me to fight my father?" "No, I want you to fight Lar." "Why? They killed my sister, and you killed my mother. I've nothing but contempt for all of you." "I had to, for my own survival. Your parents treated you like you were invisible. We both took nothing but pain from them. Aurora was the one they loved. Your mother set DeGroot's parents up to die so she could have the eye. They both laughed when Lar killed him." "It wasn't Lar," she snapped. "It was the half-breed." "No, it was not. She wounded him in Fairy Island, but Lar found him. How can you hate someone you've never spoken to?" "I was raised to hate her. The Child of Harmony means death to my family, and death has become of them." "She will accept you if you can accept yourself." "I have nothing left to live for." "Then live for me." He placed his hand upon hers, and Nemi let the love in.